Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where everybody is in the world today. A hello from a very cold South Africa at the moment. And how are things in Connecticut there, Laura?
Well, we actually have had some nice weather because, as I've been expressing, it's been a very rainy summer, which is
Yes.
beautiful, right? The rain is beautiful, but not all the summer. So, yesterday was 90. Today is going to be 90. We have some blue
Oh,
sky.
beautiful.
We're still getting a bit of the smoke from the fires up in Canada, though.
Oh,
It's been
sorry to hear
coming in,
that.
but I'm not going to complain. Life is fabulous, right? It's all good.
Life is fabulous, even with all the contrast that exists
Yes.
year round in life to bring more light onto the joy that we are able to experience. Life is always fabulous. It really,
Yeah.
really is.
It
So, with today's topic, actually, where we're going to be talking about bioenergetic breathing, because we thought we are going to take a slight detour from the deeper spiritual, esoteric topics and talk more about the physical, but still from a more spiritual perspective, right? Which I think is great. Bioenergetic breathing to help boost your metabolism and your focus. And I actually expressed to you just before we went live, Laura, that I am really, really, really sleepy this week. And I actually last week as well. It's been great. I have a phenomenal new role at my job. I'm loving it. I'm loving the fact that I'm getting to help more people. But the brain work that it takes to like look at a problem and find a solution constantly, when if you're not used to it, that energy demand on your body can be quite intense. And as a result, I have been really tired. Right. I've been saying to you constantly that, gosh, I get up, I've had a good solid 8 hours sleep, slept right through, didn't wake up in the night, and yet getting to start my day and I just feel like I could sleep for another 10 hours. Right.
I also think you and I have been talking about this, and I fell into this a little bit recently. Physicality is so important to our bodies and our mind,
Mm,
spirit. And when we get hyper busy, we forget to work out, we forget to eat well. We think that outside like exertion, right, is going to exhaust us more, but I promise you it doesn't. However, we don't breathe correctly when we have a lot going on, not just
no.
in a state of high emotion, but just our general state when the mental energy is being saturated, when the emotional, even physically sitting somewhere for hours at a time. So this is what I love this topic too. Even whether we're meditating and we're slow breathing to calm down, but what I really love about the bioenergetic breath work is it's assertive, it's
Yes.
energy, it stimulates, it activates, and so I love it. I love this topic.
I love it because when I first started looking into bioenergetic breathing, I actually came across it at a meditation retreat that I did, which was funny enough. It wasn't a residential retreat. It was one that you could do whilst working. So you went every evening for 7 days, and Saturday was a full day, and Sunday was half a day. And that was my first experience with it. And they showed us all these different breathing techniques, and then they also explained what each one does. There's only about three or four that they showed us. And I started to really think about this and looking at it more in depth, only to find out that these ancient masters, yogis and kung fu masters and martial arts masters, etc., had found out that different types of breath led to different experiences in the physical body.
Mm.
So you could do very specific breaths for when you are tired to re-energize the body, get the organs to wake up, get that energy flowing a bit better, and being able to carry on with your day. Now, interestingly enough, in modern society, right, when we are feeling tired, when things are a little bit, what's the word I want to look for, constricted
Mm.
in terms of our energy levels, the first thing we do, and I'm guilty right now of it, we reach for a cup of caffeine, right? Because you're tired, you need to focus, you need to get going. But as we also know, stimulants, it's chemical. It has the effect of, yes, waking you up, but it more often than not has the adverse effect of creating a scattered mind, right? Which is when you are tired and have a deadline, it's the last thing you need because you don't need to be awake but running around trying to do dishes whilst washing windows while studying for a final exam,
Right.
right? And to figure out that these different breathing techniques, it's right there in our body. We don't need anything external, right? We have the ability right here in ourselves to create energy, to create focus, and oddly enough, to actually help us boost our metabolism. So I wanted to actually share one more thing, and then Laura, I'd love your take on this because you are the one that's more deeply versed in physical exercise and what that can do for the body. But something that I was told, and I've looked it up, and I've seen a few articles out there, medical journals that have said similar things, but I haven't seen it sort of in mainstream medical uh, literature, and that's that the breath is the body's key way of getting rid of toxins,
Mm,
including fat. So it says that as you are breathing, if you're breathing correctly, your body actually expels most of the toxins not through your waste when you go to the loo, but actually through your breathing, through your breath. I was like, that's very, very interesting. And I have noticed that when I stick to a solid bioenergetic breathwork routine, I do look slimmer within a week or so. And I'm
mhm.
just like, is that just my mind or is this actually happening?
And you know, even if it is just your mind, and your mind has the ability, right, to co-create that experience
Yeah.
with the body, and then the outcome is that, then let it be. You know, this is such a great example of the power of thought. And for our listeners and our community to begin to understand, it's okay to play with thought and how it affects the body, and doing it through breath. Without it, right, we don't exist. And finding this, I think, this coherence of this, again, this assertive breathing, it, as you said, it stimulates the organs, it gets the metabolism fired up. Now, I'm not making any claims. I have not really I haven't taken a deep dive into this
Yes.
style of breathing to this extent, but I just recently did what we would say is a bioenergetic breath work, um, for maybe 20 minutes about 2 weeks ago. And I came across it, but it was a bit different. It was holding the breath in and then releasing the breath, but long time, like really starting to expand the time frame of holding and then releasing. And for me, this is what I love about this. And I was reading up on the energetic breath work. We have this habit of shallow breathing. We don't
Yes.
understand it, we don't realize it, we don't connect to it, we, our awareness to it is almost non-existent. We breathe, all of us, here, chest, you know, mouth, chest, nose. And when we go to breathe deeper, whether for a long period of time or just a calm meditation or an assertive breath work routine, you know, you can get dizzy, you can get anxiety, emotions come up. And this is what I think is so important about breath work. It is physicality meeting energetic. And this
Yes.
is what we are. We are these beings. And using breath work to calm or using breath work to stimulate is a physical activity. And our bodies are meant to move, our minds are meant to create. And I think this style of breathing is very exciting. I love the way it is in the body, I love the way it feels. It challenges us to release the habit of shallow breathing and get more connected to the body.
Mm,
And the more we get connected to our bodies, the more we connect to the thoughts around our body. And this vehicle of transport for thought, for movement, for creation, for the human experience. So I think there's a lot um, in and around breath work that if you have not ever attempted any style of breath work outside of shallow breathing, i.e., just getting through the day, really let this conversation stimulate your curiosity and your interest in how you breathe. And maybe even when you wake up, is it right away? Oh my God, the day, here it comes, the shallow breathing, got to brush the teeth, got to get dressed, get out the door, all of what it is. Calm it down for a moment. Just start to be aware of the breath. And somewhere in the next few days, research a bit on the bioenergetic breath work and give it a try.
So I actually had a very interesting experience on Monday. I woke up very, very early. I was supposed to go and train with my coach, and he actually, well, I say luckily because I really did not want to get out of bed. He overslept, and I was like, "Great, I'm gonna go back to sleep." And I got back into bed, and I suddenly realized, well, I don't actually want to go to sleep. But I had about 2 hours before I actually had to get my day started, and I was like, "Do I want to just get up and start looking at emails?" It was about 5:30 in the morning. Well, it's actually 5 a.m. Yes, because my alarm went off at 4:30 to start training at 5. Yes. So it's 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'm going, I don't really want to start my day now, considering that my last conference call is at 8 p.m. that night.
It's a
So I'm
long
like,
day.
that's a long day. So I was like, well, what can I do right now, bearing in mind that it is bitterly cold in South Africa? Our houses are not like homes in North America and
Mm,
Europe and etc. We're not built for it, right? So when we say it's cold, okay? So getting out of bed in the morning is it's not fun. Um, so I'm like, what can I do? Do I want to read my book? And like, I don't really feel like reading. And I thought, you know what you haven't done in ages is breath work.
nice.
So took my pillows out from under my head, lay there under the duvet so I'm nice and warm and I'm comfortable. And I did 3 different styles of breath work. It took me about 45, 50 minutes to get through. And when I was done, I sort of rolled over and I was about to kind of go back to sleep. And the oddest thing well, not, I shouldn't say odd. It was odd because when it happened, I went, funny, you have not done this in probably about 20 years. I
Wow.
stretched in bed. I
Mm,
have not done that since
yeah.
probably my early teens. That deep
Yeah.
stretch that you see in movies and that, like where and it feels so
Yeah.
good, and you constrict all your muscles, and then that release, and you just feel like so good and energized and ready for the day. And coming back to what you're talking about, how shallow we breathe, it suddenly hit me that the breath work that I just done had relaxed my body to the point where I could express in that stretch. I wanted to, and it really felt like the moment I released that strong contraction of every muscle in my body, it felt like the energy could move more fluidly.
And I think we forget that. I think we forget, again, it's habit, and habits don't advance us. Right?
No,
Unless they're great habits that are specifically intentional for advancement, but our day-to-day habits, they just don't advance us, and our shallow
no,
breathing keeps us connected to the present thought, the present behaviors, the present pattern, and even bioenergetic breath, it's really the concentration is on the depth, not necessarily the speed. That assertion and that intensity is the depth of it. And when we hold that breath and then we release it, we're actually creating the experience again of coherence, whether you're looking at it mind, body, brain creation. And every part of our body craves this awareness. It
yes,
lives for our attention to it. And if we don't understand, meaning, well, what do you mean to it? We are it, but not really, right? There's an entire ecosystem happening. Every cell, every atom, every movement within the body, the flow of our blood, the beat of the heart rate, the thought process, it's it's its own universe. And
Yeah.
breath is the vehicle to travel within that universe. So if we're shallow breathing, if we're unaware of our breath, if we have low awareness of how breath can actually stimulate health and metabolism and release of toxins and move into a beautiful stretch, create mobility, flexibility. We really are kind of shortchanging ourselves in the
Oh, yeah.
experience of our physicality. So it's even for those listening that are like, oh, meditation, and people still don't understand the health benefits, the spiritual benefits, just the human benefits of breath work. Find a way to look at breath work again as a vehicle that you get into and you move through the internal, right, navigation system to really up level what you're doing. And that's a great example what you were saying. Probably 7 out of 10 people, when they are exhausted, it's a mental and an emotional exhaustion. It is not really a physical exhaustion. It's the debris of that energetic exhaustion that the body then holds in the muscle, which creates the
Yeah.
fascia, which is this overlying contracting mechanism that needs to be shaken and broken apart so everything moves differently. Breath is just such an important vehicle for us to really become aligned with, and what it can do and the benefits is just amazing.
Could not agree with you more on all of that, actually. That was just so beautifully said. I was literally just taking it all in. It really is amazing what you can do with your breath. And I can't help but think about as well, and anybody who has pets will attest to this. You look at any mammal, right? The first thing they do when they wake up is they stretch. A cat will literally sit there and like stretch out every
Mhm.
inch of its body to get that energy flowing again. We don't do it. We
No.
we sit tense over our desks like this the whole day if we're in offices. We get home, we curl up in bed, and that's about it, right? You think about the fact that when you're watching an animal relaxing, how often don't you hear them sighing? It's like this big deep breath that
No.
they take and they
Mm.
let it go.
No.
Why do we not do that? And then we wonder why we're scattered, why we're not able to focus, because as you say, that mental debris is all there,
Yeah.
because the brain does use an inordinate amount of energy from the body. It's the one function that I believe literally just sucks up all the energy, all the calories out your body because it needs so much energy to run. But as you say, the rest of the body is not necessarily getting that same exercise. It's feeling tired because the energy reserves are not there.
Mm.
But even when you're now putting energy back in the form of food and all the rest of it, it's not necessarily being used to the fullest because the body is contracted.
Yeah.
Because again, when your brain is running so heavily in work mode, and I'm using myself now as this for the last 2 weeks, I've been so deeply concentrating on the deliverables that I have to get out at a certain deadline, etc., that my body starts to tense up,
Mm.
right? Because the fight or flight that's happening on a subconscious level is all purely mental. The body's picking up on what's happening and going, oh, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? Who are we fighting? And it's like, no, that's just going to fight your keyboard for the next
Yeah.
5 hours. That's about
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah. And for me, I have never been non-active. Of anyone who knows me and is around me, as my mom said, I came out of the chute on fire, and I really have not
Love
slowed
it.
down. However, uh, I have switched gears on a lot of levels, and the amount of creation work that I'm doing now is desk related. And it's the first time in my life that I have almost what feels like I'm going backwards. That's how debilitating it is for me to sit
Mm.
at a desk. My natural state is can I just find a cliff to just jump off and just soar and figure out how do I land?
Right.
Seriously. So I know, and being very transparent, what it feels like to go from a high energetic state of being and then really slowed way down, and how it has affected my mind body consciousness way of being in this world. And as tired as I was getting from that, I really did go into a thought process around self-care and started walking again, started meditating again, getting back
Mm.
into the gym, however I could fit it in. And you and I, we talk about this at the Shift and Co all the time. Shifting into awareness is your key. I am aware that at this moment, I'm taking on this new way of being, i.e., more work, more creative work, more entrepreneurial passion projects, a new position at a job, just had a new baby, whatever the shifts are that are happening in your life. Do not neglect your awareness to the breath and to the body and all of what we are about. It is such a discipline, but such an advancing discipline to be aware of our physical abilities and the importance of staying in that vehicle, even if it's for 5 minutes out of a darn 24-hour period. Keep that continuity going and using your breath. Oh my God, I'm shallow, I'm chest breathing, I'm stressed, I'm exhausted, it's, anxiety, too much going on. Take a moment and really empower yourself and remind yourself, my life, my choices, my way of being in the world. I am not only deserving, but I am worthy of this self love. I am worthy of 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 12 minutes. And for those of us that are fortunate to have a longer period of time, I personally feel like crap when I do not breathe correctly and I am not taking care of myself. I know it. It hits me like a brick wall. It's just another reminder. Here is the contrast of self neglect. And if we are not on top of our game, we cannot be uh, um, um, a mentor, a guide, a coach, an example of that love and light that we really want to infuse into the world. So, again, even if you're not the host of a global podcast, you are a mother, a father, a partner, a leader, a workforce team player. We all have these beautiful places in the world. Use breath to help create the journey deeper and more purposeful. And I have something that I'm going to read it because I was reading up on the bioenergetic breath work. And it says, the upper respiratory tract is just the obstacle course between the world and the engine of your respiration. And I thought that was so amazing. I just loved this.
Could
So,
you say that one more time, please? I really want the audience to hear that again.
yes, the upper respiratory tract is just the obstacle course between the world and the engine of your respiration. So, this shallow obstacle course, stress, anxiety, lack of sleep, not proper, not proper eating, lack of working out, that is the obstacle course between the world of depth, of awareness, of empowerment through the actual study and discipline of your breath work. Breath work is our life force, period.
So, as you were talking through all of that, I was actually being very conscious of my own breathing and doing something that is called, I actually want to get the name right. Anyway, it basically translates as vase breath. And it teaches you to treat your lungs as a vase that you're filling up with water, but in this case, you're filling it up with oxygen. And the idea is that you really, as you're breathing in, you concentrate on filling your lungs from the bottom all the way up to the point where it feels like you're so full, like if you're filling a vase that water's about to spill out, right? You can't get another drop in. And when it was taught to me, they said, if you ever are having difficulty falling asleep, do 5 vase breaths. Guaranteed by the third or fourth one, you will be fast asleep. And as I was running through it now, as I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling that I need to do vase breathing. Why? And I'm doing it as you're speaking. And then you said that about the upper respiratory tract. And what I found so interesting as I was thinking about what's going on in my body and listening to you is, and I know this, but we do tend to forget, so reminders are always welcome. Your lungs don't actually sit in the front of your body, they sit at the back. So when you're doing deep breathing and your lungs expand, your rib cage actually expands at the back, not from the front, right? It expands at the back. And as it's doing that, it starts to open up the muscles in your back. So all that tension that we feel from day-to-day life and stress can be alleviated just through deep breathing, right? Stretching helps as well, of course it does.
Yes.
But just deep belly breathing really does help to open up the muscles in the back so that you are feeling less stressed. You're not in that fight or flight mode, because if you're in an office, I should hope to goodness you're not having to fight anyone or run away, right? So you don't need that kind of physical stress. What you need is clarity of mind to be able to deal with whatever the work deadline is that's in front of you. If you're able to really consciously think about your breathing, and what I used to actually do with my clients, again, great reminder because I'm going to start doing this myself as well, is I would say to them, set an alarm clock every 2 hours. Every day, every 2 hours, it goes off, just pings once or twice, and that's your cue to do 5 deep breaths. And see how it changes your life. Within 2 days, everybody came back to me. They're like, I got through a week's work in the last 2 days. I don't understand what happened.
And we forget this. And rightfully so, but it is so seated within the human condition that flight or fight. It is just in our DNA. However, there is no junk DNA. I talk about this all the time. There
Right?
is a universe of space, of information and technique and knowledge
Mhm.
that we have not tapped into. And this is what I love about the Shift and Co. Shift your perspective, shift your pattern, shift your thought process, and give yourself that time. 5 minutes of breath work calms it all down and begins to change the personality, which changes the behavior and the habits. If we go into breath work, let's just use, because we're on this topic today, but it can be exercise, diet, nutrition, a love affair, self-love, a new job, a new creative project. If we go into it the same, we will create patterns and habits and beliefs and behaviors that are very similar to what we've
Yeah.
always had. When we
Yeah.
go into creating new perspectives, which to me is a new personality, we don't mean give up your values and your traditions and all
No.
of the beauty of you. Change the personality, you change the way you think. When you change the way you think, you change the experiences in your life. And breath work, 5 minutes a day. That's why within even one day of doing it, it is a moment in time that you are exercising self-care, self-awareness through breath. Again, the life force within this experience. Don't know of what else we would need somewhere else, but we need to breathe. And we need to breathe
Yeah.
deeply. We need to breathe with intention. Now, this is not to say use breath work as another stressor. This is to say, allow the awareness to deep breathing from the belly or think of your belly button, right, as the base of the vase. And I'm thinking of vases I have all over the house, but they tend to be more narrow at the bottom, and then they come up that tube and they
Yeah.
expand for the beautiful array of flowers, right? That's your breath. And 5 minutes a day, if you are someone that really is neglectful in self-care, begins to shift everything.
It
And
really does.
it does. I can't express it enough. And we're not saying shift from being a hyper physical runner, Pilates, weightlifter, and then neglect all that and just come into being a yogi and for the day.
Right.
It's simply saying, again, shift the way you breathe and work on that breath awareness coherence and feel it in your body and feel the muscles reacting, feel the blood flow reacting. Think of the heart pumping, the liver detoxifying. Think of all the different internal mechanisms that need your attention to how you're breathing. They need to expand and contract and flow and move. And it really is important to look at contraction is like, well, I'm going to say contraction, energetic contraction is like physical fascia. It is an overlay of, I can't even describe how it would look in the crisscrossing of it, but it is this sheath that goes
Mm.
over us in ways and in areas that it doesn't belong. And it tightens everything and constricts it. So your mobility, your flexibility in mind, body, and consciousness is actually covered where it is supposed to be breathable and free. And it's the same thing in our breath. We have limited breathing capacity because our bodies are undertrained in the capacity of expansion and depth, deep breathing, upper expansion. And so look at breath again as a vehicle, or I love this, as an obstacle course. How can you use breath to move through that course differently so all the other players can come in, join in, and now you've got a team, and this internal team bringing you to optimal health. And it all can be done through breath work.
I loved what you said there about it not needing to be something extra that we have to do because we are all breathing already. You're already doing it. You may
Yeah.
as well do it properly.
Yes. And such is, right, the shift of perception of everything. We're already thinking. So use positive thought rather than negative, stagnated, old, outdated ways of thinking, right? We know what it is to be physical, but yet we fall into those traps of, oh, a little weight here or a little junk food there. And then what does that lead to? A pattern of overweight and very poor nutrition. Really,
And lack of energy.
oh my God, so much lack of energy. And this is, for another podcast, but really moving into that playground of expansion through proper discipline. And this
Mm.
is what I love about the bioenergy. Everything is energetic. We are energy creatures. Our breath is energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our reaction to those thoughts. And I love even the box breathing, right? So many of the Navy SEALs do it. Breathe in,
Yeah.
hold 4 seconds, hold the breath, hold, breathe
Yep.
out, any style. So even if, bioenergetic or Navy SEALs training breath work or mantra, it doesn't matter. However, you can take this information and this empowerment podcast over breath work, life force. Remember, energy is life force. We are life force. We're movement. We're meant to be certainly at rest and rejuvenation, but we're really meant to be creative creatures.
So I'm gonna go not yes, slightly off topic. It's in line with our topic, but something's just occurred to me, and I'm somewhat guilty of this as well. And actually want to use myself as an example because I'm looking at the last 2 weeks and how sleepy I've been, how tired I've been, even though I'm getting enough rest at night. I'm drinking enough water. But I know what it is. It's because I've been so busy. I've stopped going to gym. I've been eating still fairly healthy, but I'm not cooking for myself. So when I cook for myself, it's alkaline heavy food. So it's cauliflowers and carrots and spinach and all of that, and I make beautiful soups and broths and that sort of thing.
Mm.
Whereas now it'll be okay. I'll pick up a stew from the local restaurant. Still home cooked food, but it's maybe a little bit heavier in terms of the um, the fat content and oil content than I would normally have. Right, so it's a little bit richer than the type of food that I would normally ingest. And then on top of that, because I'm not gymming and I'm not doing my yoga, I'm sleepy. And as I said at the outset, so then what do? I reach for a cup of coffee, right?
Mm.
And then it just becomes this vicious cycle. So the next day, I'm more tired than I was the day before
Yep.
because my nutrition is not quite where it should be. My body hasn't moved. So I might have slept 8 hours, but probably wasn't as deep in my REM cycle as I could have gone to get that deep rest that the mind needs, right? See, again, it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking stimulants throughout the day to help me get through it in the form of coffee. And I'm by no means heavy on stims. I'll have maximum is 1.5 cups of coffee a day. That is like I personally cannot handle more than that. But for me, that's a lot.
Right.
Okay. And then I think about it and I go, if I was looking at this in terms of a wealth portfolio, and I know the two don't sound aligned, but they really are, and I'll explain in a second. If someone came to me and said, Stefan, I want to be a millionaire by the end of next year, and I go, okay, so I've got 18 months to get you there. Show me your income, show me your interests. And again, I used to be a wealth manager, and this is the kind of exercise I would go through. Okay, so your income is not going to get you there alone. We can look at your investments, but that's also, you'd have to go really high in your investment. So chances are you need other streams of income to come in. That's going to take a little bit of investment as well. So just bear in mind, your take home cash every month is now going to be slightly lower. You're still going to have money to do the things that you like to do. You're just, if you're used to going out for dinner once a week, you now might only be able to go once a month. Right. But in 18 months' time, you can go on as many dinners as you want because you're now a millionaire.
Right.
You sacrifice a little bit to get back a massive return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with your physicality, except the difference is actually, no, it's not, there isn't a difference. So if you then chose to not do that, right, and you said, well, I'm just going to carry on living my life the way I have been,
Right.
18 months will be up and you'll be either in the same boat you were before or in a worse situation than you were, right? And you're going to be kicking yourself that you didn't just have a little bit of discipline. It's not as though I'm asking you to go live like a pauper in a cave. You just need to maybe cut down on a few things, but I can get you there. With our physical bodies, we do the same thing. We want to work harder. We want to be more focused, but we don't give our bodies what it needs in terms of the breath and nutrition and all the rest of it in order to do that. And then we wonder why we're scattered and unfocused and sleepy and all the rest of it.
And
Again, we're depleted. And
Depleted.
again, I'm speaking about myself here. Like, look, as we're talking about this, I was thinking, but
Yes.
Stefan, over the last 2 weeks, you've gotten yourself into this boat.
Yes. And it's so easy for us to fall back in, right? This is, again, built into the human condition. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll tackle it next week. When I get this project done, then I'll have more time. And we all know this. Every life coach expresses this to our clients. The time is now. The pattern is that thought, and then the behavior and the routine follow. It is so important to begin again, hone in. We know this, the J3 equals E, awareness. If you do not shift your thought, it is near impossible to shift the behavior, then to shift the perspective, right? The personality, i.e., the bank account, stays the same.
Same.
We, as energetic creatures, need to move the energy in thought, in spirit, in consciousness, in the psychological framework of our mind, in behavior. Get up, do something of self-love. Eat a little better today or tomorrow. Go for a quick walk today or tomorrow. Take 5 minutes and just breathe. Don't worry about any specific breathing. Just listen to the sound of your breath.
Mm,
Feel it coming in, whether through the nose, the mouth, or both. Where is it settling? Most of us, it's going to settle breastplate up into the throat chakra. Most of us are constricted emotionally there. Let it go deeper on that second, that third, or that 15th breath. Bring it down deeper, deeper, deeper. Bring it up. Let it start to go up into the jaw where we're tense. Let it go up into the ear.
mm.
However we can do it, shift your behavior, shift your patterns so that 1 week from now, you have had the actual authentic experience of being a disciplined human, taking in new information, because information is beautiful, but unless you apply it, unless you shift into the experience of that information, nothing will change. So listening to us is beautiful. Thank you. Now, what we want as coaches, we want you now to apply this knowledge and do something with it to actually advance your life. And that is through awareness and through the application of, and today we're talking about bioengineeric breathwork.
So, couple of things after you said that, which is just phenomenal. First of all, I'm nervous to turn these cards over because I have a feeling they're going to call me out left, right, and center. I can feel the universe being like, you did not do good. But I actually wanted to ask my lovely co-host, and this is an idea that's literally just popped into my mind. So, Laura, you're more than welcome to tell me to get knotted. But I have some pretty big goals that I want to achieve over the next 7 days, including my physical goals, right? And I, like we just said, the two really do mingle with each other. The body and the mind and the soul, three actually, really do feed off each other. It's this wonderful cycle.
Right.
I am going to commit to 7 days of bioenergetic work, a minimum of 10 minutes per day. And then maybe on weekends I'll do like a full 90 minutes if I feel up to it, although that can be very intense. So to our audience, please note that if you are embarking on any form of bioenergetic breathing, please listen to your bodies, listen to what's happening. Don't overexert yourselves. It sounds like breathing cannot hurt you. Certain styles of breath work, if you are not used to it, if your body's not used to it, can cause certain adverse reactions. So go slow, be gentle with yourselves. I would like to do that over the next 7 days, though, and just see what I'm able to achieve. And then in our next podcast, actually share our results and just be like, this is where we got to. This is what I did.
I love that. I love that. I'll do the same because today is Wednesday. So
Yes.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I will be traveling, but I can, so 3 days in a row. And then late Saturday night when I arrive over in Europe, and I will do the same thing so that when we do meet the following Wednesday, we can, right? Authentic, right?
Yes.
That's what we are here at the
Yes.
Ship and Co. We're not asking our community to do something that we are not willing to do ourselves. So we will come forth at the beginning of that podcast and say, okay, 7 days straight of bioenergetic breathing. If, where, how, change, feeling, thought, what was stimulated in this awareness of the breath work, and see what we can share. And that would be very cool. I love it.
So I'm actually just quickly making a note of my goals.
And I'm going to keep it simple for all of us out there. I'm going to take on the goal of just doing the breath work and not adding any more to my plate at the moment.
Which is also absolutely perfect. So all my goals is all stuff that's on my plate that I need to get through. And I'd like to get through it with a bit more grace. But okay, I digress. Coming back to the reading, and yes, it did kind of call me out a little bit, but not as badly as I expected it to. Essentially, it's saying that the strength lies within. It's right there. ready for you to take control of. And when you do, and I do know this, which is also why I said please to our audience, if you are going to embark on any form of bioenergetic breathing, follow a coach, follow someone who can help you through it, preferably attend a class in person, because it can have certain effects on the body and on the emotional state as well, which is borne out here. It's showing that when we really start to connect to our breath, to the energy that's flowing in and out of our body, it allows us to more easily release trauma.
Yes,
And there are so many contrasts that we all have been through in our lives. Even if it's not big contrasts, your body still does hold on to that in some way, shape, or form. Breathwork is a beautiful tool to be able to release that. And the advice card is less of an advice card. It's more just I guess, the carrot that the universe is dangling out.
yeah,
And it's so beautiful because it's the star card. And what I'm getting from this is when you commit to this, your balance is so much more pronounced.
it is.
You're
It
able
is.
to take care of the physical as well as the spiritual with ease.
And again, on a
Yeah.
personal note, I can attest that when when we eat well, when
Yeah.
we exercise, when we journal or meditate or we create, when we are working towards our highest and best self, there is something that the universe takes care of for us. That
Oh, yes.
connection to our potential really stimulates a flow, and that flow is what will help us de-stress. So this is all really great stuff. And of course, I'm going to pull up the power quote of the day. And again, just to remind our listening audience and our community, this is I open, I focus well before we hop on to this. So the power quote is, we have the power to input and manifest all that can be thought into creation. And this is so much of what we talked about today. We have the power to input, right, which is thought, and to manifest all of that thought and how we can create it. And today we talked about the empowerment of breath work, shifting into the practice and the discipline of breath, and how this can help mind, body, consciousness coherence. And that will then create a more ease about our life.
Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Well, ladies and gentlemen of our audience and everybody in between, we'd like to say a huge thank you again for joining us. We hope that you were able to glean some really deeply profound knowledge from this podcast today that hopefully allows you to lead a more aligned life.
Mm,
I think that's something that we can all say we want, and that would actually just make things a lot easier, right? You can literally go with the flow a lot better when you're aligned. So, yeah, thank you to everybody for joining us.
thank
As
you.
always, please do be, I'm sure, to like, share, and subscribe with all your friends and family. Get them involved, right? Maybe you can have, actually, I've done this before. It was a wonderful hit. Had a breathwork and yoga party one morning.
Mm.
Saturday morning, invited a bunch of friends around. We pulled up some YouTube videos of people showing breathwork and different yoga stuff. Had a great morning, followed with phenomenal herbal teas that we'd made. And it was just a wonderful way to enjoy the physicality and enjoy what your body actually should be able to do. So, yeah,
And
please do
doing
like and share.
something, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, and
no,
doing
no.
something very empowering with one another.
Yes,
Listening to the podcast with friends, creating your own version of breath work together from this podcast. So it's really cool.
I think that's just amazing. As always, the link to work with us is in our description, as well as the link to purchase Laura's book on Amazon, The Science of Empowerment. Please do share that also with your friends, share that link. We want to get this knowledge out there as much as possible. And I cannot wait for next week's episode,
Yeah.
where we'll talk about what we actually managed to achieve over the next 7 days. It's
Cool.
going to be fun. We'll see you on the flip side. Have a great time, everybody. Bye now. Bye.